In this video, we're going to talk about how we can execute different lines of code at different times in our program. The way we do this was with something called conditional statements. These allow us to execute different sections of code depending on whether a condition is true or false. That means it uses those logical values, true and false, which occur as a result of logical comparisons, usually, to decide which sections of code to run. And these are an essential part of any complex or even not very complex program that the basic way we can conditionally execute some code is using the if statement, like you see in this example. We have the keyword if, like you see here, immediately followed by some parentheses, inside which we have a condition. This expression has to evaluate to either a true or a false. So you can see here we're using the greater than or equal to operator to compare whether the value stored in this score variable is greater than or equal to 80. If that is true, then we execute the code inside the curly brackets that follow the if statement. In this case, we would print out the character string passing grade. Well, we can see that we've stored the number 85 in the score variable, so this will be true. So we will separate if statements, one of which would be kind of redundant. We can instead use this else closing curly bracket of the if statements code. So on the same line, right, we have a space, then we have this else keyword, and then we have another pair of curly brackets for the code that we want to run um, in the condition that this logical expression evaluates to false. Right? So if score is 75, then obviously score will be less than 80. So this logical condition, so we print out the character string failing grade. Now, if you have more than two conditions that you want to run, you can chain together multiple if statements like you see here. So here we have the initial if statement where we're comparing score to see if it's greater than or equal to 90, in which case we would run this code if that expression evaluates to true. Else, if score is greater than or equal to 80, then we would run this code. So we can only run one of these particular types of code, right? So it's effectively, if score is greater than or equal to 90, as it would be in this example, right, where score is 92, then we would print out excellent, and then this, even though score is also greater than 80, right, the fact that we've run the first example, right, once we have matched one of these, come after that. Now, if you want to do multiple comparisons within the same example, we want to see if the age is greater than or equal to 18 and if income is also greater than 30,000. If both of those are true, because we have an and symbol, then we would run the code inside this. Because when we use an and symbol, we expect whatever the expression is on the left to be true and also whatever is on the right to also be true. If only one of them is true and the other one is false, then and says, well, they're not both true, so the combined expression will be false. If you only care about if one of the conditions is true, then you can use the or operator, the vertical bar, like you see in this second example. In this case, we're looking to see is age less than 18, or is student status equal to full-time? Well, we know that age is 25, right? So this first condition is actually false, but the student status is full-time. So the or operator goes, well, this is false, but this is true. So since at least one of them is true, then the total expression is also true. And so we do run the code inside the if statement. We can often combine loops and conditional execution by nesting one type within another type. For example, here we have nested an if-else statement within a for loop. So for every iteration of the for loop, we're going to set the loop variable I to be equal to one of these 10 numbers, and then we use conditional execution to check whether that number divided by 2 has the remainder 0. In other words, is the number an even number. If it is, then we execute this code, which prints out the number is even. Otherwise, if it's false, right, which means the number is odd, then we print out the number is odd. And sure enough, you can see we're looping through the 10 numbers, 1 to 10, and we're quickly printing out that 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, 4 is even, etc., etc. Sometimes we can vectorize conditional execution when we have a vector of values. One way to do that is with the if-else function that comes from the dplyr package in the tidyverse. To use this, this is the function signature. So we put the condition as the first argument of the if-else function. The second argument is the value that we want to put into the new vector if that condition is true. And the third argument to the function is the value we want to put in if the condition is false. For example, let's suppose we had a vector of scores, right, which we have these 5 numbers. We could then use the if-else function to vectorize some conditional code and see is scores greater than or equal to 80. So what the if-else function does is it essentially compares each one of the values of scores within this logical expression, either true or false. And depending on whether it's true or false, it either inserts the value pass or the value fail into the output vector. So we create a new output vector, and you can see that printed out here. This is the value stored in the new grades vector. That's the output of if-else. And sure enough, right, the first value is 85, which is greater than 80. And so we would insert the true value into the new vector. We get the value pass. The second item of the input scores vector is 72, which is less than 80. So in that case, that evaluates to false, and so we put in the false value, which is the word fail. And sure enough, that's the second value in the output grades vector, and so forth.